Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is trade deadline day on this Friday, and all of our guests today are brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. No moves today by the Vancouver Canucks. We have an hour to go before, or it's a little under an hour to go before the NHL trade deadline. Joined now by NHL Analyst, co-host of the Bob McCowan podcast, John Shannon. Thanks for doing this, sir. How are you? And just so you know, to make you feel at home, we've spelt your name wrong on our name key.
Isn't that grand? That makes me feel so good. It's always one of those things when you tell people how to spell your name, they say, "Is that 2 N's?" And I said, "No, 3."
Yeah.
Like I got
no,
but it is 3.
It is 3.
Not 3 in a row.
Yeah,
No,
there
exactly.
you go. There you go.
Oh,
we fixed it for you.
I feel so much better.
So does Derek. Hey, John, should Canuck fans be upset they didn't get Guentzel, they didn't get Toffoli, they didn't get Zucker, or nobody else today to this point? Should Canuck fans be upset?
Well, I'm leaning towards no, simply because I think the team has been so good. And let's remember, and Rick probably has more news about this than I do, is that they had the best third line in hockey for a while when Dakota Joshua was healthy. And Dakota Joshua is one of those guys that, Rick, when you were talking about how to play the game in the playoffs, he's a playoff performer. He'll be important in the playoffs. So I don't think that it should be overly upset. I think disappointed. Probably. We talked, I think, last week about Tyler Toffoli being a guy that would help this hockey club. Goal scoring you can never have enough goal scoring. So from that perspective, it probably would have been good to get him. I don't think you wanted Jason Zucker simply because of the price. And I'm not sure if Vancouver could have taken the whole salary. So from that perspective, I'm leaning towards don't be upset. Maybe be a tad disappointed, but in the end, they're still one of the best teams in the West. And let's face it, I think everybody has been arming in the Western Conference to get to the same level the Canucks have been all season.
That's a good point. Hey, we haven't run this clip yet, John. Maybe we will before our show ends. But Sidney Crosby last night, when asked about the Penguins losing Jake Guentzel, seemed very, very upset. His contract is up at the end of next season. Can you envision him moving elsewhere?
It is actually a conversation that is growing. And, there are 2 ways to look at it. Will he do what Mario Lemieux did all those years ago and stick through hell and high water to be a Penguin for his whole career? Or will he do what Ray Bourque did at the end of his career and say, hey, listen, I would like to go to a contender one more and win one more Stanley Cup? Now, Bourque, that was his first. This would be Sid's 4th. It is totally up to Sid. I actually, in listening to the interview about 3 times today, I think one of the things to put into context about the interview was they just got bombarded 6-0 at home. I mean, there was nothing to be happy about, period, let alone the trade of Jake Guentzel. And we all know, and Sid has known for, I would suggest, more than 2 weeks, that Guentzel was going to be moved. This was not a surprise to those people in the know in Pittsburgh. So I take the interview with a little grain of salt, knowing full well that, and you guys know what a competitor Crosby is. He's just ticked off losing 6-0, particularly to the Washington Capitals.
Yeah, no kidding. What was your take on the Guentzel trade? When these trades of this magnitude happen, John, people want to see big names, big prospects, big draft picks. A lot of people disappointed Pittsburgh got what they got. What did you think?
Well, first of all, I think we have to define what Jake Guentzel is.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a comparable discussion about Noah Hanifin. I think both of them are both very good players. Very good players. I don't think they're great players. Can they be a difference maker on a team that has a ton of depth? I think Hanifin can in Vegas. I wonder, and now that the Kuznetsov's in Carolina too.
Yeah.
Carolina has needed a game breaker for a long time. And does that combination of Kuznetsov to Guentzel make the Hurricanes have the possibility of a game breaker? It just might. So, he's a good goal scorer, a really good goal scorer. But I think when you deal with guys that, aren't signed long term, you don't have a lot of leverage in making the trade. And Kyle Dubas, under the circumstances, couldn't get him signed or didn't want to sign him. I'm not sure which one it was. And in the end, felt that was the best deal possible. But you don't have very much leverage. And so even the leverage of whether they win the Stanley Cup or not, the draft pick changes. Here's the other thing. We've seen it before. We saw it with St. Louis and the old Atlanta Thrashers. Jake Guentzel can sign in Pittsburgh on July 1st.
Yeah, that's right.
He can sign in Pittsburgh on July 1st. So perhaps the story isn't fully told yet, and it gives Guentzel a chance to go to the playoffs one more time.
John, the arms race in the Western Conference, oh boy, Edmonton, Colorado, Vegas, Dallas. I'm going to throw Dallas in there because of Tanev, but boy, they got better this week. Who did the best in the West this
Winnipeg.
week? Oh, yeah,
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg, too. I forgot Toffoli, yeah.
When you look at the depth of the Winnipeg Jets now a little bit has to hinge on the health of Gabe Vilardi, and we haven't really been told how severe that injury is yet. But if Vilardi's ready for the playoffs, the depth of their 12 forwards is absolutely remarkable.
Yeah.
And they have the best goalie, 1A, 1B between Demko and Hellebuck. So those are the two best goalies in the West. I think Winnipeg did exactly what they needed to do at this time of year in order to get to that next level. And it's funny, you talked about Dallas and the Chris Tanev situation. I think the addition of a guy they brought from the minors in Stankoven, the kid who played in Kamloops, what a huge difference he's going to make. They have an unbelievably complex age distribution when you think of the old guys like Pavelski, and then the young guys like Wyatt Johnson and Stankoven.
That's right.
I think the Dallas Stars now are really, really close to being the best team in the West.
Yeah, we talked about Stankoven earlier. 8 points in 6 games since coming up from the Texas Stars. Very, very quickly, John, what do you think people are more interested in? Regular season NHL games or the NHL trade deadline?
Well, I mean, you have 180 days of games, and you have 1 day of trade deadline. So, and I know where you're going, Donnie. I think there has to be some discussion at some point of if this day is that important to every team in the league, and every team in the league competes on the trade deadline, maybe there shouldn't be games today.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just think about the fact that, when you consider the players have to travel, players are preparing for games, their wives and their families have social media too. I'm sure there are people that haven't had much sleep in the last couple of days.
Yep.
Maybe there shouldn't be games on trade deadline day. But again, we look at all these special days like Hall of Fame Day and all these other things that we don't want games. And then we're going to be forcing teams to do a lot more back-to-backs, and I don't think we want that either.
John with 1 N, Shannon with 3. Thanks so much for doing this, John. Happy trade deadline day.
Cheers, boys. Have a great day.